Okay, so welcome to this first lightning sessions. You know that this is a very popular format in Alfresco conference. There are only 5 minutes for every speaker. There are 5 in a row. There are no stoppings in the middle, so they are auto-advancing the slides. And in general, there are short concepts to be explained with a graphical way. We have, for this first session, you have another 5 these days. But we have part of the government services team from Alfresco talking about different things. It's real. And also Boriss and me from the Order of the Bee talking also about different topics. So now I'm going to hit the button and all is going to start. Remember, no stop.
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Boriss Mejias. I'm an air guitar player from the Order of the Bee and Second Quadrant. I have a terrible jet lag, but I'm doing my best for this presentation because I really love the community and I love that people love the community as well. As our friend Vasil Iliev, who is not here, but he said after going to Beacon 2017 that this was like a family reunion over Alfresco content. This feels really good. I mean, a family is really important. And a family is good when we have good communication between the members of the family. So let's talk about a little bit of communication. How do we communicate in the community? Because if we know how do we communicate, we learn a little bit more about who we are. So we communicate quite asynchronously, and we do it in the community platform, which has a forum. And in the forum, you can get a lot of help from other people from the community, or almost synchronously when you go to the IRC channel. You have the address there, so you can get more information there. It is also a way to communicate. Important for us is Twitter. Who do you follow in Twitter? Of course, Alfresco, but also the Order of the Bee, and the hashtags like Alfresco DevCon that we are all using for this event. So this is one way to communicate. Now, there are some other ways that are put there to communicate, but we also would like to code a lot, and we do that in the hackathon. And this is a serious event. You can see that people don't even take the hands off the keyboard for pictures. They're really concentrated working. And some other people take a different approach to the hackathon, like these people here. So you can probably guess from what they have in the table instead of laptop from which country they are. Now, it's not that obvious because we have a lot of participation in this hackathon, especially the last global virtual hackathon. You can see the list here of the cities that have a local hacker room. So this is a very major event. You can always participate in the hackathon here, but also globally. And you can see that people are proud to be participating in the hackathon. Now, I said virtual hackathon, so we also have other virtual conferences. It's the Technical Tech Talk Live, which is given by experts, as you can see in some of these pictures. And this is organized mainly by Francesco Corti and Christian Gastaldo, which are community managers, and they also organize the office hours. So we can still more informally get to know what is going on with the community. This was previously done by Richard and Jeff. So this is for the virtual part. We also have other things in the community that we are not doing that much lately, which are the meetups. Meetups are informal meetings where you also have presentations, and they were usually organized in pubs, which is really nice. And when I talk about meetups, I have to think about our royal family. So we have some royal members in our family. We had Amy Courage, who was the queen of the meetup, and we have Oksana Kurisheva, the queen of the bees. Now, Amy is not being active in the late time, so this is one of the places where you have a possibility to contribute. If you want to organize meetups, it's going to be good for the community. The next step of meetups, you have something larger like we have now, is a conference. We have 2 very nice conferences organized by the community, and that's one of the reasons why we have now DevCon. And by the way, this guy here, you probably know him. He was also giving some keynotes in previous DevCon editions, like this one in 2011 or 2012. So some time ago. And he also does some participation in the virtual conferences that I talked to you about. So we love this engagement in the community. And the people, the attendees, they also love the conferences. You can see they take pictures and they share them with friends and colleagues, like, look where I am, I'm at the conference. So it's a nice souvenirs for the attendees, but not only for the attendees, it's also nice souvenirs for the organizers. Look at this. When we saw this in Zaragoza, it was like, wow, look what we have built as a community. And my heartbeat went like 191 beats per minute when I saw this. So it's good. We love what we do, and we are happy with it. And this is why we have such a nice community. And we have an international community. You can see this random picture here with 7 guys from the community, 6 different native languages here from 4 different continents. And this was just a picture, like, hey, let's have a selfie. But I have to warn you, if you meet some of the people, some of them are too serious, and you have to be aware of them that it's not going to be always fun. These pictures come from social events, and from social events I have my best picture is the next one, which actually looks like a painting from the Renaissance, where you have these meetings. It's a beautiful picture, I think, because not only the colors, it's also the people who is there. They are looking at each other, they are talking with each other, informal people, formal people, they bring their partners, their spouses. So I also want to challenge you to try to find one person here who is looking at his mobile phone. Everybody's talking to each other. So I call this be present. That's all I have to say. Enjoy the rest of the evening, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Boriss. Hello, everyone. My name's Roy. I'm product owner for governance services. Some of you may know me. I've been around a little while. Hopefully the slide will progress. Just cover the 15 seconds that I have to wait. There you go. So today I'm going to talk about what governance services are. Traditionally, this was all about records management, but things have changed a little bit, as you would have seen from Brian's presentation a minute ago. So the digital business platform is made up of 3 parts. We've got process, content, and governance. And at Alfresco, we have a whole team that looks specifically just after the governance stuff. So what I'm going to do is try and explain what that is using a real-life use case, something you can get hold of. We're going to talk about the scenario where we've got a pharmaceutical company. So this company makes an imaginary drugs or vitamins or whatever else they might make, and we're going to look at the different use cases they go through and how governance applies to that. So obviously all companies are going to try and build new products. In a pharmaceutical company, you've got all these scientists sat around dreaming up new drugs, and they're going to follow all these different research processes, thinking about what they're doing, recording what they're doing, and eventually generating, hopefully, cool new recipes for these drugs. That's going to produce all this IP, this intellectual property that's very valuable for the company. And obviously we need to make sure that's very secure. We don't want our competitors to see that. So that's where we can use the governance services to actually secure these documents by stamping them with marks. Those marks can actually control who can see those things and actually travel with the document, which is slightly different from the normal security procedures that you've probably seen. So obviously now we've got this brand new drug, we actually need to prove that it works, right? We can't just give it to people on a whim. So we've got to run a trial. And you can imagine, again, there's process elements to this trial, but ultimately we're going to gather all this content together to show that these things have actually worked. So there's our results. We're going to put that in our content folder. So now we've got a record of the information from the trial, and we've got the process information, and we need to keep that very securely. We need to record it and prove that that is exactly what happened, because ultimately somebody's going to come along and say, I don't believe you, right? So we're going to stamp it as the official document using our governance services bits and pieces, and then we're going to file that away in a filing cabinet somewhere that we control and we know who can access, and ultimately we're going to be able to find that information very quickly. So if we've done all this, we've used all 3 parts of our platform. We've used the content, the process, and the governance to cover these use cases. Ultimately, we've developed a fantastic new drug. So we're starting to make lots of money. And with that comes a bit of attention. And people are starting to ask, did you really, is this really a wonder drug, or are you just making this up? So the FDA phones us up and says, hey, I need to actually see evidential proof of the fact that you ran these trials. I need to know exactly what's in these drugs. So they send us a request for information. Now, if we haven't used our governance services correctly, you could imagine this information is scattered across various repositories. Maybe we've got processes running. But we've been great. We've used our governance services, and we know exactly where they're filed. We know who can see them, and we know how long we had to keep them for. So that means we can quickly reply to the FDA accurately. and without any kind of concern that we're not representing ourselves correctly. With that, we're obviously running some processes, we're recording what's happened, we've got information gathered into packets, we're also recording how long this takes and who's interacted with that process. And that in itself can then be recorded by our governance services as evidential proof that we actually dealt with the request, who dealt with it, how long it took, and what we actually gave them. So that's all great. The FDA goes away, they're happy, but we get a knock on the door and we get served a lawsuit because one of our customers had decided that he might make a quick buck by trying to prove that actually the drug we gave him didn't do him any good. So the judge comes to us and says, hey, I need you to give me all of the information regarding this drug. And we've got to go and find all that. Now, this can be a very costly exercise. You can imagine heaps of documents you've got to sift through to find the information. But because we've used our digital business platform and because we used our governance services, it means we can collate this very easily and then we can lock that down using a legal hold so that we know that information is not going anywhere. If any more information appears in the system, we can automatically allocate it to that hold, and that can get served very quickly back to the judge, and he can be satisfied that we've given him all the evidence we have regarding that pharmaceutical. So those are 4 kind of fairly common use cases that are applicable to most businesses, where you can see the use of all 3 elements of the digital business platform. This is a very high-level diagram that shows you the approximate breakdown. So records management, discovery, classification, and security. And you'll see that they work between and with the other 2 sets of services. And that kind of is essentially an overview of the whole architecture. So if you've got any further questions, obviously feel free to bother myself, David, Ross, and some of the other guys that are here. Okay, thanks very much.
Hi, I'm Ross. I'm another developer on the governance services team, and I'm going to talk through today the workflow that any community contributions we receive will go through. So I'm probably not as good as Roy at filling the extra 15 seconds that I wasn't expecting. So we use Jira as our issue tracker, and there's the ALF project that's set up for any contributions that we receive, not just in RM, but in the whole company. So you'll raise tickets here for any changes you want to put in, any bugs you've noticed, any fixes you want to put in. And if it is a bug or a fix, it might also be worth checking the records management project. So all our tickets are prefixed with RM, so it's easily searchable. And they should contain either fixed versions or effects versions to let you know when we're planning to address them. In the ALF project, at the bottom of the JIRA form, there's this contribution agreement that we need everybody to agree to when submitting a fix. There's links so you can read it all. And afterwards, you'll receive a ticket number. So we just ask that you use this ticket number in any commit requests or at the start of your merge requests as well. It just helps tie everything together, and it'll just help us understand everything. As well as Jira, you can talk to the team. We're happy to let you know what's coming up, what we're working on, and also give you ideas about what it is that you could do. On the last slide, I'll give you some names. You can get in touch with any of us through the community site. So the code, it's split between GitLab and GitHub, with all the community stuff being available on GitHub. So you'll need to take a fork from the master branch there, make your changes, and then create a pull request back in. And then that will kick off a Travis build, which essentially just checks that the code compiles and all the unit tests pass. And afterwards, there were a number of ways that we could link that back up to GitLab. We've gone with a Python script that will run every hour. It will mirror across any pull requests as merge requests, which then in turn kicks off a Bamboo build, which has a series of builds. The first one, this CO section, is essentially the same thing that Travis has just done. So if that passes, we wouldn't expect to see this fail. We then do the same for the enterprise code. Then we run the community and enterprise REST tests, check the benchmark driver's still fine, and then we have quite a few automated tests and UI tests. While it would be helpful for us to split them between community and enterprise, we currently can't, as not all the libraries we use are open source. There is plans to change that, but it's not currently being worked on. Also, the time it takes is a limiting factor. So Travis takes around 17 minutes and will run between 250 to 350 tests. The Bamboo build takes around 8 hours and will run over 2,000 tests. So with that larger number of tests, it's possible that we'll find some issues there that you won't see on the community side. If that happens, a member of the team will get in touch and help work out like next steps or help put in fixes. We won't just leave you to it. So after the build passes, we'll start a code review. There are a set of coding guidelines that we ask everyone to follow, and there are also config files for the code formatting for IntelliJ and Eclipse. One thing that I always find helps speed up code reviews is documentation. So unit tests, Java doc, code comments, we love it. You can't add too much. So afterwards, after the code review's been completed, we'll merge the code back in on GitLab, and using the same Python script as before, that'll get mirrored back over to GitHub. While this does mean that it'll also pick up any changes we're doing internally in the team, so there'll be unreleased features moved over, there won't be any unreviewed or incomplete code as we work on feature branches internally. So everything that I've gone over can be found in the contributing file in the root of the project in GitHub, as well as all the links to all the Jira projects and other things. Here are the names of the people you can get in touch with on the community site. You can get in touch with the rest of the team as well. It's just I had to include some. Thanks for listening. And also, the community questions page, usually a great place to get answers. We're not the only ones. Thanks.
So, hello, my name is Angel Borroy. I'm proud member of the Order of the Bee. And let's talk about SIR, that all-faceted framework that all we love, right? Let me tell you the history of an engineer who was looking at SIR and say, I think that there are too much versions. I can improve that. I'm feeling confident that I can make it better. So he have an idea, a nice idea. I can include easily a new button, just a small button, just to remove one single version. And this is a simple task for me. So that engineer go ahead with the idea, and as he was incredible, he has all the certifications, many blogs, I don't know. He was legendary, right? He said, this is going to be so simple. I'm going to end this task in about 50 minutes. It's just XML lines with on the FTL page and the JS, and it's done. So 15 minutes, believe me, it's a simple task. So let's start with the Maven, and let's start to see where the FTL lines are. He found that there was not that lines at the FTL. There was a hard-code production for this HTML, but no problem. He overwrite all the method and just include that little lines with JavaScript and styles and all the messages in one line. So again, he was really good. He add in 2 seconds the lines for the styles, another 2 seconds for the messages, doing all properly, like a good engineer developing a nice extension. And then he started to see what was the REST API method to invoke, which, come on, what is? Oh, okay. he couldn't find that method, but he go again because he was plenty of confidence, and he looked for the JavaScript API method, which was not available. Sorry for that, but no problem, no problem. He didn't fail. He go away for the next one, and finally he found on the Java API the method. Okay, this is. He said, okay, no problem. I can develop in Java, in JavaScript, in REST API. I have no problem. Let's start with the Java code. So he said, okay, a delete method with the node def and the label is so simple. Delete verb, and again, Maven is my friend. Command line, come on, let's create the repo artifact. So here start to create a web script, which is very easy for a legend like this, I mean. He fully write that web script and it was available. So he feels great. He say, okay, I know about everything, about Alfresco, so I'm practically perfect in every way. He was very proud of his work. So just I need to write a short JavaScript to integrate my web script, and okay, what's that? Web script format 0, what's that? Ah, okay. He remembered that Alfresco is expecting a point to identify if it was an HTML or a JSON. So no problem. Let's move again. I can do it. As I cannot use a delete on the URL, I'm going for the post. Why? I don't know. Because you have to use delete, because you are deleting. But no problem. Let's go with the post. And now just, he was making a stranger thing because he want to end the task. So he go away with that post. He puts the proper comment. And he thought that it was good. No problem. So in the end, with that 15 minutes task, he built all that functionality, that simple functionality, with a couple of lines of code. But again, when he see what he has done, he said, like every engineer, I'm not completely satisfied with my work. I can do it better, because everyone can delete the version, and I do not want that. I want just only that people in a group can delete the version. And now this is real. This is one line of code. We all love Surf, because Surf is great. So with one line of code, he solved all these small and simple problems. So if you are going to create a new feature in SIR, let me know. Your better skills are patience, perseverance, and the community. So join the community, and thanks.
So, hello everyone, I'm David Webster. I work for Alfresco, and I'm going to talk today about what I do when I'm not at work and how that helps me when I am at work. So, in my spare time, I volunteer for a search and rescue team, and I'm a search manager and a water rescue expert for Oxfordshire Lowland Rescue Team. And what we do is we help the police find vulnerable missing people. And it's a bit like mountain rescue and the RNLI, but for the bit of the UK that's not a mountain or the sea. And that's quite a large area. So as a search manager, the police delegate to us, and we're responsible for deciding where, if we search, decide the relative priorities, and then we go through and we allocate resources, we plan to make sure we get the right people in the right place at the right time. And searches can be quite big. The largest search I've worked on had 50 searchers, 6 dog teams, police officers, police helicopter, and they can last for days and days. And at some point I realized there were transferable skills between that and my day job at Alfresco. And not only that, but they're skills that it's typically quite challenging to pick up elsewhere. So in this role as search manager, I'm literally making decisions that can be the difference between life and death. And I think the hardest decision I hope I ever have to make is whether to continue a search or stand down if we've been out for hours and we haven't found anything yet. But if you preempt tricky decisions, you can remove emotion from them. And something like laying out clear criteria for when you stand down a search can make an awful decision a lot easier. And decisions I make as search manager may well have to be justified in a coroner's court. So that really focuses the mind into recording not only why you've made a decision, but when, and actually making them using data as well. And for search and rescue, I have large books of stats that provide historic find locations and survival times, etc. But using data is something that we should all do every day, as well as recording data now to help with future decisions. Now, we can all think of a stressful situation, be it a release deadline or treating a critically injured patient on the hillside. None of us can avoid stress, so we need to learn to deal with it effectively. And as engineers, we understand the concept of bandwidth, but SARS taught me that there's emotional bandwidth too, and it's when that emotional bandwidth gets overloaded that we stop dealing effectively and we get stressed. And the easiest thing you can do to improve your stress response is to recognize external factors and look at what's consuming that bandwidth for yourself and for your colleagues, and look to reduce that. And in SAR, we train and we produce checklists to help with that. And simple things like we can produce a release checklist for software releases, or we can rehearse demos, and that reduces the bandwidth required by those tasks. So our stakeholders in search and rescue are the blue light agencies that call us out. And there's no point us spending time investing in skills or features if they're not going to use them. And it doesn't matter what skills we've got if we're not trusted to deploy them. And so we need to understand our stakeholders, and we need to care about what they care about, feed that into our prioritization, and most importantly, communicate effectively with them. And Oxar's taught me to communicate with suicidal, missing people with dementia, and all levels of police, fire, and government. And that's a vital skill for all engineers too, because we need to be able to explain to our POs or our PMs why a technical change is necessary and how that enables them to achieve their goals and why it should be done. And so to recap quickly, you'll need to make hard decisions, preempt them if possible, be prepared to justify them, use data, and collect data for future decisions. Stress is due to overloaded emotional bandwidth, so be aware of demands on yours and others, and try and reduce that. And understand what your stakeholders want, establish, maintain trust with them, and tailor your communication effectively to them. Thank you.
Okay, that's all. Enjoy the day. Thanks.